Hello, everyone. How's everyone feeling? Good, good. Well, I was just telling some families just now that I've been with your students all day, and they are absolutely phenomenal. Like, thank you so much for bringing them. They have such great energy, and they're having a lot of fun. So again, if we didn't meet this morning, I'm Nina Preto. I'm the Associate Dean of the college and also Director of International Student Services. So this is kind of like an informal type of panel. We're going to have our students kind of introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about their experience at Williams, and then we will open it up for questions. And like this is the time to kind of ask any questions that are on your mind. Ask them. They'll give you some advice about for your students, like what's the best piece of advice to give families. So, and then we'll take it from there. So I will turn it over.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say something. Hi. My name's Peter Lay. Or Thuy Lay. I'm originally from Vietnam. I'm an international student, and my parents still lives there. I went to high school here in the States for about 4 years before, so I didn't come to Williams like straight from abroad. But yeah, here at Williams, I'm a junior advisor this year in Sage EF. So if one of your kids is in there, let me know. And yeah, I'm an economics and sociology double major. Aside from that, I also sing in our non-audition a cappella group, all Disney, by the way. It's called the Aristocats, and I love them. And yeah, and my journey to Williams, it's been like a really complicated ride. I had a great time, but it's like a very tough environment here, and when you come out of it, you feel really grateful, but in the moment, it's also very stressful, and particularly kind of moving in the first semester, there's a lot of things happening and a lot of transitions, and I just remember thinking like, this kind of like having this independence that was promised to me when I was coming to college, and like having that kind of blow back to my face, like, oh, like no one's here to tell me what to do. There's no like teacher like reminding me constantly of what to do. And initially, I felt like very lost because of that, because there was no kind of formal structure of how I can work life here at Williams, as opposed to like, before, especially in high school, there's always this sense that there's a goal that you're working towards for your whole 4 years, which is to get into college. So not having that was really tough. But I think, eventually I learned to kind of appreciate that and kind of lean into that and really learn things and take classes that I really like, and not necessarily that they're like serving some sort of purpose to like build up to something. So that was one kind of thing I came out with that. And I guess the other thing about the independence is that I've realized that, it's not that college, or at least at Williams, it's not that they kind of just push you, like they like put you in a pool and like make you swim. Like, it's not like independence doesn't mean like you don't have any sort of support. It just means, I think, that like my relationship to the resources and support is different in college and here. So like in high school, it was always a position of authority, or like my teacher is someone telling me what to do and supporting me proactively. Here, I just have to learn to really like ask for help and just reach out when I need to, and like knowing and feeling comfortable that other people are there to help me, and like they're willing to help me. They're here. That's like a lot of the staff here, their sole purpose is to support the student, and like it's been said a lot, but like it takes a long time to internalize that, especially I think coming from a culture that's very different, that's very hierarchical. Yeah, so that's my 2 points. Yeah.
You just go on. So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. My name is Crispin Lekaza. I'm an international student from Tanzania. So unlike him, I came like from Tanzania. Actually, this was my international experience away from home. I'd never been out of the country, and I just came here. Actually, funny story, I got my flight. I actually missed my flight, my last flight here. And I met one of the friends, one of my friends in like Washington, Dallas, which was a very crazy experience. I remember it was at night. I was very afraid. Like I didn't know what to do at that point. But yeah, so I mean, for me, I'm double majoring in computer science and economics, just to take that out of the way. My transition to Williams has kind of like been kind of different from a lot of people. First of all, back home, I sort of like studied in the boarding school. Away from my parents for like 4 years, and then I studied additional 2 years away from my parents, kind of like, we're in the same country. I went back home for holidays and stuff like that, but like most of the time I spent in school. So coming here away from my family wasn't that much of a big deal for me until winter came, when it was so cold, I didn't see the sun. And then that was like, oh my goodness, I'm feeling so lonely right now. Like what should I do and stuff like that. I mean, I had friends, I had like community around me, which was very helpful for me, and that was super great. But yeah, it was still super hard for the winter months, for like at least 3 or 4 months for the first time. Now I'm used to it, so it's not that bad. Again, kind of like I'm kind of used to it. And again, like part of why, like again, I'm from Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, which is kind of like at the coast. It's either super cold, it's either super hot or it's raining. There's no like much of seasons right there. And then I came here, it was summer for a little bit, like just right now. And then it transitioned into fall, where it was so beautiful. I'd never seen anything in my life. It was just like, oh my goodness. And then winter came. The first day of winter or something of that sort, like there was snow. I'd never seen snow in my life. So that was like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing ever. And then you get to go like where snow is like, I don't know, 5 feet, and you're like, shit, what am I doing? And it was super hard for that time. But again, as I said, like I got through it. I think Williams, I actually didn't plan on coming to Williams the first place. Williams was never my first school. I actually just Googled at the end. One of my college counselors was like, yeah, you should apply to Vassar or Amherst. I don't know if you know those schools, but they're also liberal arts colleges. And I was like, I don't know what a liberal arts college is. So I just Googled the best liberal arts college, and I applied like 2 days before, the day of actually, when it was the deadline. Ended up getting here, and it was the best offer, so I was like, yeah, I'm just going to come here. And actually for most of my first year, I was just thinking of transferring to like some other school. So I was always like, my head was not like completely settled to this school. And I was just always like talking to my friends, like, yeah, what can I do and stuff like that. And I would say though, after the first semester, I remember like being able to talk to my professors so like very easily. I just like emailed them and be like, hey, I want to meet you tomorrow. I want to talk about this. And like even outside class issues, I could go and talk to them. It was so easy talking to the deans. Again, I think I've seen Dean Nina a lot of times. I don't know. Like sometimes I go there and I'm like, shoot. I think she's tired of me at this point. But yeah, so I think for me, like being able to go talk to people like very easy, and we have like amazing professors, amazing like faculty and staff and all those people. Just going and talking to them. I actually prefer talking to people more than sending emails, because I could see their emotions and like actually ask even questions that are kind of like not on the surface. You know, like kind of, I feel like whenever I send an email, sometimes I receive judgment, or like I don't write it well as how I want to. So yeah, that has been amazing for me. And I have friends like in all these schools, and they're always telling me like, yeah, I don't have that kind of like mobility to talk to anybody at any time. Most of my professors are so busy, I couldn't like talk to them every time I want or something like that sort. So yeah, that has been amazing for me. That was actually the deal breaker for me, and that is what has made me stay. So I'm a rising junior right now. I was here over the summer. Did research, and now I'm working for IT. But yeah, I think like I like being here and just spending my time here. So yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ji Hong, and I'm actually a rising sophomore, not a rising junior. And I'm from South Korea, a city called Busan, near the coast. For a little bit of background, I was born in Korea, and then I moved to Pakistan, Karachi, Pakistan, where I lived for about 6 years, elementary school, middle school. And then I moved back to Korea for my dad's work, and then from there I graduated to come here. As for things I do on campus, right now I am planning on ambitiously getting a triple major in econ, comp sci, and statistics. We don't know where that's going to go, but as of now, I'm trying to do that. And it's funnily enough, it's been exactly a year since I arrived on this campus for the first time. I was an international student, never in the United States before, but I did receive an American education my entire life because I went to a foreign school everywhere I went. And when I first arrived here, I remember my family and I were traveling around the States a little bit, so I could get used to like the jet lag before I actually started school. And I remember we drove into the mountains, like all those swirly roads with all those trees, and being like, oh, wow, this is where I'm going to spend the next 4 years. And I feel like I came in here knowing kind of the exact person I was. I thought I was very sure of who I was, what I wanted to do, what I liked, what I disliked, and I thought I knew myself very well. And the first thing I knew was I was a city girl. I'm not a girl to be just like in the countryside roaming with the cows. But ends up I'm here in the middle of nowhere in the Berkshires. Actually, I never knew what the Berkshires were before I was here. So, and then I came in here and I sorry, oh my gosh. And then I remember telling my parents, I don't know how I'm going to spend another week in this place because I remember back in Korea, I could get to like the 24-hour convenience store whenever I wanted. I could, get on the metro, go across the city. I was very like mobile, but here I was just stuck on this campus, although it was very beautiful at the time, especially because everything was green. It was in the summer. And international orientation started, and again, I was still thinking, like, how am I going to spend another week? I cannot be in the countryside. But funnily enough, this year I'm leading Wolf, which is what I'm sure some of your students are also participating in it. It's a first-year orientation program where we take students out backpacking into the wilderness. Who knew? And yeah, we're going to be backpacking for 4 days, and that was not something I imagined myself doing at all. And I remember the first semester here was quite a wild ride for me, especially. I was away from my family for the first time. I had gone to the same school for about 6 years before I came here, and I knew my friends. I was very comfortable around them. Again, comfortable in my own skin very much, knew who I was. And then I was hit in the face with all this academic stress, all this social stress of having to find new friend groups, having to find new people to talk to, and everyone was going at their own pace, and everyone's so brilliant here, so smart, and having to meet up to those expectations. And especially coming from a culture, my family isn't so much this way, but the Korean culture of having to meet up to your expectations and having very high expectations for yourself and not wanting to let other people know that you're struggling, I feel like was a big thing I had to fight against and struggle against. But I remember in the middle of the winter semester, everything was getting cold. I was getting quite drowsy, very looking for something warm, very lonely. And I remember calling my parents and I told them, I don't know what I'm doing here. I think academically I'm kind of getting a hold, but at the same time, it is still a struggle. And I remember hearing from them that uncertainty was fine, and that was something I needed to get used to, especially as a 17-year-old on my own on this campus, away from my family for this first time. And I really did not understand what my parents were saying, but I feel like second semester, the small relationships I'd made across campus, saying hi, or sitting with them at Lee's, having dinner or lunch with people, that had made a very tight-knit support system that I did not know I had by the spring semester. And I remember I kind of found out that my passion were in the 3 areas that I don't know how I'm going to do it, but the 3 areas that I've been taking classes in, and also the friend groups that I found. I feel like international orientation was a big part of it because it naturally leads you into this close-knit group of people that you're put into this place in the Berkshires. You all come from different places, different cultures, and having to find a place on this campus, I feel gives you a very good system to lean back on, especially during the second semester. I found myself kind of finding my place on this campus. And yeah, that's what I have to say. I feel like I went through a lot of changes, and I actually called my parents this morning when I found out that I wasn't talking to a group of students, but a group of parents and families. And all they told me was they were really proud to see the changes that were happening for me over the year, although they were very small things, going from being very comfortable in the city to now knowing how to camp out in the wilderness. They thought it was something to be very proud of, and they told me that they want to tell you that if your student ever calls you during winter semester being I don't know what to do with myself, that you guys don't need to be worried. They will find their place on this campus because there's a place for everyone. Yeah.
Okay, so now this is your time to ask any questions. You can ask of the students to me and get your answers. So, questions?
The three of you actually both say that it's going to be double majors and then triple major. And then you have this one. I mean, it's curious why all the students so interested in double majors instead of just one major.
I would say that's because kind of by the way that the courses and requirements are put in place. So we have 32 classes that we have to take over the course of a Williams career to graduate. And each major only requires about 8 or 9, at maximum like 10 for stats. So that's a very small proportion to like the 32. So a lot of students end up doing another one, and those still have like 10 elective classes that they want to take. Some other students like do like double major and then a minor, but I would say like it's not really like it's not like added stress. You're not taking more classes than like another Williams students. It's more like a way of just structuring your like this is my decision to structure my academics this way. It doesn't really matter if you're like like just economics by itself and then you take another bunch of other classes that doesn't constitute a major compared to like double major. I think that's like it's not like a bad thing or like it's not stigmatized that like you're double or single major. People just do it.
I think something else, like just gonna add on that. I mean, I think most people come here being interested or focused on only one thing, and then they realize that they're also interested in some other things by taking classes, because we're actually required to take like at least 3 classes in each of the division, because we have Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. And so once people take like one class in something, sociology, and they're like, oh, I'd never taken this. This is actually very interesting, so I'm gonna major in this, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's more like, as I said, a small proportion of your classes, and you could already major in 1 or 2 or 3 as she wants, but also it's all about like finding other interests that you didn't know that you had before. Yeah.
Also, the catalog just makes every like class seem like so much fun, and like courses are like cross-listed a lot between a lot of majors, so you'll go into a course thinking that, oh, I'm going to totally just focus on the econ side of this course, but find out, let's say you like the art history side. For example, my friend is taking this course on like the economics of purchasing art or something, and she's an art history / econ major because of that, because she found that course so fun.
So I'll just jump in here because I actually advise students not to do double majors or definitely not triple majors. We'll talk. I love it. But I know. Yeah, so we have that talk with them in the dean's office a lot of times. They have that talk with their faculty advisors. And also, I know a lot of international students want to do a double major, so they choose sometimes something in social science and humanities and then a STEM degree. Because STEM degrees actually allow you to apply for further work authorization when you graduate. So if your student is under a F1 status, they get 1 year after they graduate to work and get practical experience. And if you're in a STEM major, then you get an additional 2 years. So you actually have 3 years of work authorization under F1. So a lot of my students will choose something like political science, but then they'll also do economics, for example. So that's another reason. I think we see a lot of double majors. Yeah, so.
Can you tell me a little bit about winter study? What did you do for your winter study? And then when you come, like if you have gone back to home for 2 weeks and you come back, it's that extreme weather. So all campus is working, all services are available, dining, and everything is like as per routine during the semester, during winter study?
Yeah, I think winter study is just basically like any other term. Like all of the services are there. Students groups might be like clubs and things might not meet like depending on their schedules. But everything operates as normal. It's actually like more fun because you're only taking one class, and so you have a lot more free time. And the school kind of organize a lot of trips to like ski, and like to other like kind of there's a lot of snow sports around here that are fun. So yeah, and for me, I took a class called A Taste of Austria my freshman year. And that was it was really cool. So it was basically a cultural class, and it was taught by a doctor who's the wife of a professor, but she lives in Austria, and so she comes and she brings a couple of high school students, and we get to do like a little exchange, and then we just learn about their culture. And ultimately, we went skiing, and that was catastrophic for me because I've never skied. But that was really fun, and it's just these classes are, I think like it depends on what classes you take, but I think that's kind of the beauty in it, in that the students gets the choice to either take something very structured and like advanced and actually like learn like coding or like finance. Like those are like the more intensive ones, but there are also fun ones like glass making or like, what did I take? Yes, last year.
Quilting.
Yeah, there's quilting and like those classes, like it's just an opportunity for you to learn a completely new thing and get your mind off the academics for like a month, which is totally necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, winter study, as I said, like normal operations, but it's just like less workload, which is I think it's very like helpful in helping you to kind of transition into spring semester. Although when spring semester comes, you feel like, oh, I'm lazy, I don't want to do this because like you're used not to do this and stuff. My freshman year, I did like an entrepreneurship course. I think it was named How to Start a Startup. And then last year, or this year actually, I did something also along the lines of entrepreneurship, but then basically we went to San Francisco and visited a lot of the alums who have started their own companies or working at like Google or Tesla, all those stuff, and sort of like ask them their journey, how they started those companies and stuff like that. But yeah, it was really fun, for sure.
I actually took that startup course this winter, and then I was snowboarding a lot the whole month.
Oh, I remember the class I took sophomore year. I took musical theater, so we just literally went every day and sing, like take turns singing, and at the end we have a little show where like we all came together and like each of us sang a song and everyone came. We were at like Chapin Hall. It was very cute. Yeah.
And also, I mean, apart from because your freshman year, you're actually supposed to be on campus for your winter study course. But apart from that, you can even like do this thing called the 99, I believe, where you propose to the college what you want to do, and like you don't have to stay here. You can live in a project back home or somewhere where you want, and then you'll be funded up to $500 or something. But yeah, you could do multiple things you want to.
So you are taking the Wolf program. Okay, my son might be going with you. I think he's going for those 4 days trip. Is
Yeah.
the same one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how many leaders you will have along with you? You'll be many other students, just you and the first year students.
There are many leaders. Like I believe, I don't even know the number. Like 50, 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sophomores.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and then
huge.
we divide into little trips. So all the trips will be going different places.
Okay. So how do students manage in wilderness? I'm a bit, anxious.
I've never been camping, so.
Honestly, it was my
Something very difficult to do. I mean, they have to carry huge backpacks.
Yeah, like huge backpacks on our back. Well, it was also my first time backpacking for the first time. I never went camping before my wolf trip last year, and I was pretty anxious because I also somehow got into intermediate backpacking. But honestly, we get trained for a while. Our training starts tonight actually until the actual trip starts, and I don't think you need to worry because, yeah,
I know.
you can trust me.
I was a bit anxious, because he has not done the actual backpacking, though he's very, very excited, he's looking forward to it, but as a mother, I was a bit worried, I don't know if cell phone will be working there or not, and if something happens in some case of emergency, what will you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually I was sort of in the same spot, but it was actually me who was worrying about this. So I think I was very late in registering for the trip that I was supposed to do, like the orientation thing. And so I went to the website, and in the Wolf trip, they had all these things saying like it's cool. Every single part of it, like every sentence, they say like, this is so fun, this is so cool. These guys were walking in the wood, this picture. So I was like, yeah, this is so fun. So I didn't like look at anything else. I applied for Wolf, and then I came. I remember one day before going into Wolf, I was like, shoot, I'm doing such a terrible mistake. I'm gonna be in the wood like for 4 days, no cell phone. Like you're not supposed to have cell phone. The leaders do have cell phones in the case of any emergency. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, the only thing was it was so cold at night, but I got through it, and I really loved the experience for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I also did Wolf, and it was like I didn't feel like unsafe at any point in time. Like we were kind of spread out in these mountains, so it's basically kind of next to Williams. And I think like the office that organized this, like who's the
Scott Lewis.
Yeah, Scott Lewis. He's famous here. He's like a legend here because he organized a lot of these kind of trips, even during the year, like hiking and stuff like that. And like, I think like he has told us that so far there's like no casualties on, for
This
Wolf.
hardwood.
And yeah, and like the leaders like are so like they're all really great and they're trained in the spring and the fall. Like they did the trip and they all have cell phones and like I know a lot of students who like starts out with Wolf and like feel like a day in or two they feel like this is not it, like I can't poop in the forest, things like that. And like they would tell their leaders and their leaders would phone Scott Lewis and he would send a van, pick them up and put them to another program. So like I was leading the Where Am I orientation program, which just stays here, and so we were getting like a couple of students who are from Wolf who like just wasn't used to it, and so like they came back and just had like equal amount of fun here. Yeah.
There are many varsity sport teams, and I'm wondering how many international students, I mean the percentage of international students join the varsity sport teams.
I actually don't know the number on that. We do have some international students that are athletes and on the teams. It's not a lot, not here, yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't think so. Go ahead.
I have a varsity tennis player, Maxine. She's from Singapore and she plays varsity tennis.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Hockey, there's a lot of like Canadian
Oh, yeah.
students on the
Cross
team.
country has a couple. Cross-country track.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I actually have a couple friends who are, and one of them is in rugby, and then the other one is in track. But yeah, and then also during the year there's soccer, like varsity soccer, where like you play against other colleges' varsity soccer teams too. So you could do that, but there wasn't. I mean, there isn't a big number of that for sure. Yeah.
To keep asking, I'm just curious, how did you transition yourself from city life to life in Williams? Was it, I mean, what would be the advice you would give to an incoming student, just like your situations?
I feel like keep yourself busy because I feel like in the city there's just so much going on that you don't need to put in the effort to keep yourself busy. But personally, I felt that when I had nothing to do, I would just like kind of feel down a little bit because it's so quiet sometimes. So I'd say just hang out with your friends a lot. Just be in places where people are always there. Yeah.
I think also the other thing is keeping an eye out of the opportunities that are available. Like throughout the year, there are like trips to go to various places, like New York, Washington, D.C., Boston, and stuff like that. There's always like a trip, or there's always a fun thing to do. Like go to watch a movie or something that the school covers for, and like there are a lot of opportunities. And I think like if you keep an eye out for the opportunities, you definitely you won't feel alienated for the entire time. And also have sort of like find people or community that you can hang out with from one to
Is
time.
there some sort of international student club in the college?
Mhm.
This college that most of the students will say, like during break time, you guys would organize trips by yourself to go?
There's an International Students Association. Yeah, and like the school pays us to get like international food too sometimes, which also helps with the cravings for international food. And we also have weekly dinners, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, there are various organizations. I mean, I was actually the co-chair of the Williams African Students Organization, so we also did the same thing, kind of like had trips, had like cooked meals together, and like kind of created that community of students so that students could feel home here, far away from home. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
No, go ahead.
yeah, I feel like ironically, I think by a couple of months in, a lot of students are gonna feel like they're missing out on events on campus, and I think one thing to kind of put in there is like when you're transitioning from the city, I think a lot of like where this frustration comes from is that you kind of keep like in my mind when I moved here, I keep kind of comparing this town to like a city and what it has and what my friends in like NYU was doing. And that's kind of toxic and not really helpful, but I guess another way to put it is like Williamstown is not much different from a city in that it's still like a community and there's still many little communities on top of it. And I think if you feel that your students ever feel like kind of disconnected from the community, just asking them to reach out or like there will be people who like overlooks that. And, like as my roles at JA, like one of the things that I kind of have to do is to check in with students who I feel like are disconnecting themselves and try to make sure that, you know, if they don't like being in the entry, for example, then they have some sort of circle of friends that they feel comfortable with and that they like to hang out with, and that, and that they can hang out with without missing like the city. And like, I think a lot of the time it's like, it kind of forces you to make these deeper connections compared to the city where you can kind of willy-nilly like walk around and do whatever. And so that kind of is the positive side in that I found. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from New York City, and I came here about 3 years ago, and it was I'm still transitioning. So I think it's great, though, for the students, because like they said, there's so much going on campus that they really can stay busy. So I would encourage you to encourage your students to get plugged in, not just academics, but join student organizations, do sports, like all kinds of exercise regularly and do different things. And if they feel lonely, because it can get really lonely, to either speak with their friends, come speak to the deans, and you know, we'll help them get plugged in, we'll help them get away from campus for a while. So we have like Albany, that's about an hour away, and they do like regular trips to Walmart and different things, but yeah, we, as staff, we understand too. Yeah.
Do they have regular ski trips during winters?
Ski trips?
Yes, you can even take a ski class. So, yeah, that would be how you get it. Like regular free skiing trips would be taking a class, but there are like free events that are like every week or so. That's, yeah.
Yeah. Does,
No.
how about the outing club?
For me,
Yeah.
I after my winter study class, which was from like 11 to 1, I would get lunch and then run to the van, which would take us to the ski lot or ski resort, and I did that every day. And you can just get a pass at the beginning of the winter, and you can take the free van every day if you
Yeah.
want.
And they have the outing club. So like if your student wants to go like kayaking or ice skating,
You can rent out,
you can
like,
rent
a-
out the
Equipment.
equipment. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And what about the celebration of the cultural events of one's country?
Those happen too with the International Student Association too, and we hold a lot of events for that.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of events are held for the entire campus. So like, I personally love, I've never like made the food, but I love going to street food night, which is when a lot of different international students groups, or just people from the same culture, they come together and like make street food. And like in like Pareski, where like the fireplace you guys saw, and yeah, they just share the food, and like loads and loads of students come to like fight for this food. And I genuinely feel bad for like students who have to make them, because there would be like 50 people like surrounding their table. But those are the things, like those happens, and like I think there's essentially a lot of clubs that are grouped by like different nationalities. So like there's religions, so different kind of affinities groups out there that hold their own events. So like I know like the Vietnamese Students Association does like movie nights, like they make food together. We go to Boston for like Vietnamese New Year. So like there are events, there are clubs and students who are dedicated to kind of planning these events.
Yeah. And also our chaplains are really like active. So like we just had Eid, so the chaplain would take a group of students to prayer in Albany, and then they would have a meal afterwards. So that's definitely happening here. Yeah.
How do they all find out about all these clubs? I mean, you sound like you know them all.
Find out.
What else is-
There's this thing called the Purple Key Fair. It's during the first days where all the student associations will come into the field house, and they'll just have like big billboards with why they should join your club. And, yeah.
Yeah.
And also there's this thing called daily messages, which comes at exactly 1:24 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you're
it
like, you need to
does.
go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, and it tells us about all the events happening that day or for the week. So.
Yeah.
I think also because it's a small campus, especially like with the first years, they can talk to the JAs who have
Yeah.
been here for a couple of years, so they definitely know like where to find different things that they want. Yeah.
Yeah, so usually like I think I walked around Purple Key Fair and all, but like I think like the clubs that I end up going to was like the clubs that I was talking to other people, and they were like, oh, like I'm in this, like do you want to come? And especially like a lot of the time it happens with the JAs because the JAs like a lot of them are in the position of like I'm the president of this and that, and like they try to pull people in because all of the clubs are also like they're not just like standing there and students come to them. They're actually like the part of campus that are actually trying to recruit heavily. So every club like flyers and have these events going out. So it really draws students. Like I think. Yeah, like I think every club can get a good amount of students because they always recruit that. Like.
So we have time for one more question, and then I'll have my students just give their family group a piece of advice. So one more question, anyone?
So is there a lot of interaction between the American students and the international students?
Throughout the year, I don't feel the difference, honestly, except for during like international student like dinners and things like that. While you don't lose your identity as an international student at all, like there isn't much of a difference when you're in courses or things like that.
Yeah. So yeah, there is definitely like a big interaction. Actually, my roommate for the first year was American. I was from here, and all my suite mates. So it's kind of like a room with like 2 rooms, and we're like 4 people. All of the other students also were American. So, I mean, I had a bigger community of friends who were like international, but also I had like a bigger community also of people, I mean, of friends who were like American. But yeah, there's a good bit of interaction in classes, in events and stuff like that, yeah.
I think a good thing about orientation, and especially the first month, is that Williams kind of intentionally creates put your students into these circles. Like our entry is one circle. There are like orientation leaders like Wolf is one circle. Their international like leaders and their kind of group is also one circle. So you get to be put in circles and interact with people that are not necessarily all international students, and that kind of forms the bond there.
Yeah. All right, so give the families one piece of advice as we go into their first year.
I would say that like your students should be out for opportunities. They're like opportunities all over the place. Like Williams is so good about that. Like there's opportunities, you know, to go to places like I said, Boston and stuff like that, and the trips will be paid for. The opportunities to go for movies, like even when the Endgame came, like Avengers Endgame, like the school paid for like at least 300 students to go.
I must be going to watch the Endgame. All students were interested?
Well, not all. I mean, some of them had like conflicting schedules, but I think there were about like 300 students or 350 students. Exactly, and the college pays for it. And I mean, my friends tell me that I'm very good at looking for opportunities, and I'm really like good at. I'm really good at that. I've at least trained myself to be good at that. Like even for career stuff, the college provides like 500 to buy suit or to go to places and kind of like, you know, get interviews and stuff like that. Like all of these things, like the college provides money for all of these things. So you just need to look for opportunities and see them. They're everywhere. And honestly, just go to talk to people and they'll tell you of the opportunities that you haven't had before. So, yeah, that's my one key advice.
Yeah, I guess my advice would be, this is kind of hard to do, but like to leave your students kind of space and distance, especially like in this first year, to really explore and grow and like really lean into this community, because it can seem really hard and like hazy at the first couple of months, but then like the clarity that you get like by the time they come back in the summer, like the kind of clarity and the change that you will see is kind of can be kind of like crazy. And yeah, and just like I think the only thing to would watch out for is just to make sure that your student have kind of a circle that they feel comfortable with, whatever that circle may look like or be, and to know that there are people on campus here who are like seriously only here because they're looking after your students' like well-being and safety.
I think also kind of building off of that, like self-care, I feel like is something you could always just emphasize to your students. I feel like it's really easy to like get lost within all of the things happening on campus, and I feel like taking care of yourself, making sure you're eating right, you're like working out if you need to, like sleeping right. I think all of that, like your student, you should always emphasize that whenever they call or anything like that.
Yeah, if there's one thing that parents, I guess my parents can be a stickler about for me is telling me to go to bed. Like,
Oh,
I would
yeah.
love to for my parents to call me at like 12 a.m. Like, can you go to bed, please?
The
But
time
yeah,
difference.
yeah, they
can
can
do
call like
that.
at noon, like, hey, I'm eating lunch. Can you wake up?
Exactly.
Can you go to bed? Yeah.
I think also like just one thing that you said also, I feel like parents, you kind of like should at least know like the time difference. I know like most people here come from different time zones. I remember like my mom for the first day, she was calling me at 6 a.m. and I was like, Mom, I'm just getting up, or you're woken me up. But yeah, just know about those, time differences. Also like kind of like take it easy on your students. For the first semesters or for the first year, it's gonna be hard for them like to kind of get used to the environment, and that may kind of reflect on their classes and stuff like that. But kind of like encourage them, come alongside them, encourage them, help them like to go through the situation. I think that's very helpful.
Mine would definitely be like if you hear that your student is having a hard time, to encourage them to seek help and use the resources that are here, because that's what we're here for. And like all the students tap into resources, they should too. So, and to do it before things get really difficult. So always communication is key, and do it before, it really like starts to go downhill. So we're gonna take really good care of your students. Okay, well, thank you so much. And we have food now.